For millennia, the Galactic Council considered itself the absolute pinnacle of civilization, logic, and power in the universe. In their eyes, any new species that clawed its way to the stars had to submit to their strict, ancient laws. If you complied, you were granted a seat at the table. If you did not, you were quarantined, left to rot in the dark. Far out in the Orion, Cygnus arm, isolated in a restricted sector of the Milky Way, sat a solitary blue marble. The council had a specific classification for the inhabitants of this world, Deathworlders humans. According to the council's elite archives, humans were dangerously stubborn, aggressively territorial, and entirely unpredictable. They had a violent history, consistently varying among themselves over imaginary borders and fleeting resources. Because of this, despite humanity achieving faster than light travel, they were drained entry into the Galactic Council. The humans did not seem to care. They simply fortified their borders, built massive orbital defense platforms, and stayed quietly within their own system. But the Council, in all its infinite wisdom, failed to realize one crucial detail. By looking away the fire they deemed too dangerous, they were looking away the only thing capable of melting the ice that was about to consume that all. The year was 3042, the long-standing era of galactic peace shattered overnight. From the uncharted depth of the Andromeda void came a terror no one had predicted. They were known simply as the Swarm. They were a hive mind species. They did not communicate, they did not negotiate treaties, they did not take prisoners. They were a cosmic locust plague, moving from system to system, stripping planets of their atmosphere, minerals, and organic life, leaving nothing but barren rock in their wake. The magnificent, shimmering fleets of the Galactic Council crumbled before the worm like glass under a hammer. On the outer rim of the galaxy lived a gentle, agrarian species known as the Zilari. They were pacifists, a society of farmers, philosophers, and healers. When the swarm's vanguard shifted its trajectory toward their home world, Zilari Prime, the Zilari desperately begged the Galactic Council for military aid. The Council's response chilled them to the bone. The transmission from the High Chancellor was brief, cold, and entirely logical. Zillar Prime is a lost cause. Our fleets are spread too thin and are currently falling back to defend the core words. Evacuate if you can. We are abandoning the sector. For the Zilari, evacuation was impossible. They had no military armada, no, and barely enough transport ships to save a fraction of their population. As the sky above Zillar Prime began to darken with the silhouettes of millions of farm vessels, billions of Zilari prepared to meet their end. Supreme Commander Wheel of the Zilari stood in his dark command center, watching the tactical monitors blink red. He was a man of peace, but watching his people panic in the streets broke something deep inside him. If they were going to die, he decided they would not die in silence. Bypassing all councils, regulations. He aimed the planetary transmitter out into the deep void and broadcast a blind distress signal on every known frequency. His voice trembled as he spoke into the microphone. His This is Zil Prime. Our world is burning. Our children have no here to run. The council has abandoned us. If anyone in this dark universe is listening, please, we do not want to die. He sent a transmission and heard past then too. The silence of cosmos was deafening. Nothing came back. Will closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. He had screamed into a void that simply did not care. Replay the camera. Above them, the swarm began their atmospheric descent. The sky turned a sickening shade of burst purple as plasma fire rained down on outer cities. But then the radar operator gasped. Commander, the operator shouted, his voice cracking. We have a response. A signal are punching through the swarm's jamming frequencies. Will rushed to console. From where? Is it a council remand fleet? No, sir. The operator looked up, terrified. It's coming from a quarantine zone. It's coming from Seoul. Before Will could process the sheer impossibility of it, the main audio channel crackled to life. It was not the crisp, elegant, synthesized voices of the council. It was a heavy, slightly distorted baritone voice. It sounded like grinding metal and restrained fury. The voice spoke in broken, translated Zilari. Zilari Prime, this is a Admiral Cool of United Terran Alliance. We receive your hail. Get your kids underground and look up. We are awesome. Whale was stunned humans, the primitives, the warmongers. What could they possibly do against an armada that had crushed the galaxy's greatest militaries? But before we could ask, the sky above Zeller Prime ripped wide open. It was not the graceful, shimmering slip space ruptures of console ships. These were violent, judged tears in the fabric of reality. One, 10, 100, 1,000 portals tore, tore through the atmosphere simultaneously. The swarm vessels burst their bombardment, tuned their biosensor toward the anomalies. Out of the rifts proud ships, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were not chic and they were not beautiful. They were brutalists, nightmares of scarred titanium, dense tungsten armor, and massive forward-facing kinetic cannons. They looked exactly like what they were, apex predators of the deep dark, and leading the formation, eclipsing the sun itself, was a dreadnought so impossibly massive it had its own gravitational pull painted on the side of its heavily armored hull in stark white English. Lettering was the name UNS Wrath. The human had not come to conduct a rescue mission, they had come to wage war. The common channels cracked on one last time. Admiral Cool's voice echoed across the planet. broadcasted on an open channel for the swarm to hear. Alien vessels in orbit of Wheeler Prime, you have fired upon a sovereign, unarmed populace. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or you will be eradicated. You have 60 seconds to complete. The worm, operating on pure predatory instincts, ignored the warning that tuned their bioplasma cannons toward the Terran fleet and fired. On the bridge of the war, Admiral Cole watched the plasma bolts ping harmlessly against the dreadnought's magnetic shielding. A terrifying predatory smile crept across his face. Weapons free, he whispered, and in that moment the galaxy finally understood why humanity had been kept in the dark. The Death Worlders were let off their leash.